An island, small, cold, rainy, sitting on the edge of the world. And yet, this tiny island conquered nearly 25% of the entire planet. It gave the world its language, its laws, its democracy. And it did all of this through 1,600 years of absolute chaos. Wars, invasions, revolutions, beheadings, empires. This is British history. And it never slows down. Before Britain was Britain, it was just a cold, misty island full of Celtic tribes. Then in 43 AD, Rome arrived. Roman legions stormed the island, built roads, cities, and walls. Hadrian's Wall, built to keep the northern tribes out, still stands today. For nearly 400 years, Britain was Roman. Then Rome collapsed. The legions left, and the island was thrown into chaos. Germanic tribes flooded in. Angles, Saxons, Jutes. They carved the island into small kingdoms, constantly fighting each other. Then came something worse. The Vikings. From 793 AD, Viking raiders hit Britain's coasts with terrifying speed and violence. They burned monasteries, slaughtered villages, conquered huge chunks of England. King Alfred the Great, one of England's greatest ever leaders, fought them to a standstill and saved the kingdom. But the chaos wasn't over. In 1066, William the Conqueror sailed from Normandy, France. At the Battle of Hastings, he defeated the English king and declared himself ruler of England. The Norman conquest completely transformed Britain. New language, new laws, new ruling class. England, as we know it, was born. Medieval England was brutal. Kings fought barons. Barons fought kings. Everyone fought France. The Crusades dragged English soldiers thousands of miles to the Holy Land. And in 1215, something extraordinary happened. The barons had enough of King John's tyranny. They forced him to sign the Magna Carta, a document that said even the king must obey the law. It was the birth of the idea that no one, not even a monarch, is above the law, the foundation of modern democracy. But did that stop the chaos? Absolutely not. The Black Death arrived in 1348, killing nearly half of England's population. Wars with France dragged on for 116 years. And then, England started fighting itself. The Wars of the Roses. 2 royal families. Decades of civil war. Rivers of noble blood. Out of that bloodshed, the Tudors rose to power. And nobody did chaos quite like the Tudors. Henry VIII married 6 times, beheaded 2 of his wives, broke from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England, just so he could get a divorce. His daughter Mary I burned hundreds of Protestants as the stake. His other daughter Elizabeth I defeated the Spanish Armada and launched England into a golden age of exploration. Under Elizabeth, England began building something that would change the entire world. An empire. The 17th century brought the most dramatic political crisis in British history. Parliament versus the king. King Charles I believed he had the divine right to rule however he wanted. Parliament disagreed. Civil war erupted. The king lost. And in 1649, for the first and only time in British history, a king was put on trial, found guilty, and publicly beheaded. Britain briefly became a republic under Oliver Cromwell, but the monarchy was eventually restored. And then, quietly, brilliantly, Britain began building the largest empire the world had ever seen. Trading posts became colonies. Colonies became territories. Territories became an empire spanning every continent. At its peak, the British Empire controlled 25% of the world's land and 25% of its population. The sun never set on it. But empires don't last forever. 2 world wars drained Britain of its wealth, its manpower, and its global dominance. In World War I, nearly 1 million British soldiers died in the mud of the trenches. In World War II, Britain stood alone against Hitler's Germany for over a year, bombed nightly, running out of supplies, but refusing to surrender. Winston Churchill rallied the nation with words that echoed across history. Britain survived, but the empire did not. One by one, colonies gained independence. India, Africa, the Caribbean. The empire that had dominated the world for centuries quietly dissolved. What remains is a small island, still cold, still rainy, but carrying the weight of 1,600 years of history on its shoulders. The English language, spoken by 1.5 billion people worldwide. The legal systems of dozens of countries, built on British foundations. Parliamentary democracy, copied by nations across the globe. Britain no longer rules the world, but its fingerprints are on almost everything, from the laws you live under, to the language you speak, to the sports you watch. Cricket, football, tennis, all British inventions. 1,600 years of chaos. And somehow, an island that changed everything.